This is Eitan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger, and you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys.
For those who have been living under a rock, Israel is going through one of its most turbulent times in its history. Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets to protest against the judicial reforms offered by the Netanyahu government, with economists warning of dire consequences and left-wing politicians warning of a dictatorship. Meanwhile, our enemies are watching and taking advantage of the situation. As reserve, Air Force pilots and other intelligence corps reserve officers refuse to show up for duty. The situation has led to a deep divide within Israeli society, with families and friends cutting ties and blocking each other on social media. It has become almost impossible to have a calm and rational conversation about this issue without being called a dictator or racist, or I'm going to even skip the last part.
Okay.
Today, dear listeners, we will explore whether it is, in fact, possible to have a civil conversation. I'm pretty confident that we'll succeed about this contentious issue. To do that, we invited back a friend of the podcast, Lilac Sigan. Lilac is an accomplished journalist, commentator, and author based in Israel. She has worked for major publications such as Haaretz and Globes and is currently a regular contributor to Maariv. Recently, she conducted a study on the coverage of Israel in the New York Times, which she published in Maariv and other media outlets, and became an academic study for Bar Ilan University. We are super happy to have her on the show today to talk about the current events. We should say Lilac is opposed to the reform. I think it's safe to say.
Yes.
So it should. That's why we're hoping to have a fruitful conversation about this contentious issue.
It wasn't easy to, we approached several very potent anti-reform prominent...
but, I don't know if that's fair because we're a small time, so,
I don't know.
You could say, but anyway, thank you very much for joining.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed being here last time.
Thank you.
Really, I thought it was great talking to you guys. Even though, we didn't agree on everything back then either, but I think we had a really good talk.
Yeah.
And I think it even did pretty well on, on the listenership, the numbers, listenership. And I was very happy when you offered to come back.
Yeah. And it started from a Twitter.
It started from Twitter. It started from Twitter. But before we start on that, can we go back for a minute and kind of do a wrap up? Yeah, a recap and a wrap up of the New York Times study, because we just figured out before I came that it was almost a year ago when I was here. And I was just in the beginning. Yeah. I was I had 4 months data, and, we had this whole big conversation about it, and I thought maybe I would make it into a book, and, I didn't know what I was going to do with it once it was finished, and I can tell you the end now. I can tell you what happened. So first of all, I had amazing yearly results, which are super, super strong. I'm starting with the good side, okay? Well, good and bad, really. It's very, very hard to read a news outlet, a media outlet every day, and read all these long stories in the New York Times. They're really long, and there were 361 articles about Israel in the New York Times during 2022. So imagine I read each and every one of them. I read every word.
It's basically an article a day.
It's basically an article a day, and sometimes there's nothing. And so, including Saturdays and, everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's nothing, and sometimes there's 3 articles or 4 articles in one day. So it became pretty heavy. At some point, when I started it, I thought it would take me 5 minutes a day to kind of, I'd log on to the website, I'd read all the stories, and I'd write something, but it became this big thing. And as the time went on, I did a 6-month review. I put all the data together, and after that, and got a lot of reactions. And that's when the Bar Ilan professor, Eitan Gilboa, who is very renowned in the field of communications and public diplomacy. He offered me to do a study about my project. It was a project until then. Yeah, and then it became an academic study all of a sudden. And I immediately said yes, because I didn't know how long it would take, to actually write the study. It took me a really long time. I put everything aside. I'm working on a new book. I put that on the side. I just really sat for between 6 and 12 hours a day in front of my laptop and worked on this academic article. Putting all the data together. And
no ChatGPT.
No ChatGPT. No, nothing. Not even once.
Okay.
Not even once. I swear. I did it. Everything.
It could have taken you 5 minutes.
I know. Maybe I'll redo it. And just to see what comes out.
You know what's the most disappointing thing about ChatGPT and GPT-4, which, by the way, guys, we talked a bit about before we started recording.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that you put a ton of effort into something, and then we did this, right? I don't remember what it was, and then you give it to it. You give it to ChatGPT, and you say, "Make this better." And it makes it better.
It really makes it better.
It makes you feel awful.
Yeah.
You work on something for hours, and then
God.
you give it to it, and it just makes it better.
Oh my God! I wonder what would I write fiction. The novel that I'm working on, it's fiction, but it's in Hebrew.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's mind blowing. I can't even.
Okay.
I told you I can't contain it emotionally.
But you spent all this time on the academic study,
right? Okay, so just the results. Let's talk results for a minute.
Yeah.
First of all. I had really, it's very hard to take all the data and come and say, okay, bottom line, I don't have an hour now to tell you what the bottom line is, right?
You can't give us like a scoop. New York Times is anti-Semitic.
No, because that's already interpreting.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to
There's
say.
no way to empirically prove that.
No, you can't. You can't.
Okay.
I mean, but you
Fair
can.
enough.
What you can do is you can say that they use the occasional use of anti-Semitic trope is troubling. Okay, because during 2022, the words Israel and apartheid appeared together in New York Times articles 39 times. Okay, wow. That's a lot, and it's just occasional. Okay, once I'll give you an example. Like one time, it was in a film review. Some Palestinian, made some film, and it was a review about the film, and it starts with that it gives you a peek into what life is like in an apartheid state, like it's a fact. Okay.
Do you have data on that 39 times? Like how many of them are stating it as a fact, while how many of them are,
well, no, I didn't go into that because it's only 39 times. It's not, it's a lot, but it's not that many. Okay. Yeah. So 39 times, but when you compare that, for instance, to how many times did the words Hamas and terrorist organization appear together in New York Times articles during 2022? And the answer is 13 times, 1/3 of the times. But Hamas is a terrorist organization. The U.S. State Department says so, not me, not you, okay? The U.S. State Department's on the list of foreign terrorist organizations.
That's crazy.
And Israel is not an apartheid state.
But Bella Hadid says so.
Exactly.
With all due respect to the State Department.
The claim...
Even if you disagree... with the idea that Israel isn't an apartheid state, I think you have to be insane to not agree that is less of a more of a controversial statement than Hamas is a terrorist organization.
No, I think I would say, I totally know what you mean, but what I would say is that that Israel is an apartheid state. That's a claim. It's not a fact. Hamas is a terrorist organization is a fact. So the claim appeared 3 times more than the fact.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is not right. There can't be a logical explanation to that. And that's what I tried to find in the study, to find ridiculous things that cannot be explained logically and cannot be considered journalism, professional journalism.
Biases.
Yeah, it's not even bias. It's like you're not telling the story. Okay, if you're saying that Israel is an apartheid state, which is a claim, 3 times more then you're saying that Hamas is a terrorist organization, which is a fact. You're not telling the story.
Yeah.
You're telling the story in a very, very wrong way. So I'll just give you... Are
there more examples?
Oh, yeah. There's a really good one. This was not the best one. The best one was that during 2022, it was a peak year in terror. Okay, the ISA published the numbers. There were over 2,600 terror attacks, small ones and big ones, during 2022, which is the most since 2015, and it even exceeds 2015 a little bit. 204 of them were considered significant terror attacks, okay, like big ones, which...
globally.
Yeah. How many times did the word Hamas appear in a headline or a sub-headline in New York Times items, articles, whatever, during 2022, which was a peak terror year in Israel? How many times?
15.
You want to try?
17.
17. Okay, the answer is 4.
Oh, goddamn.
Okay.
I thought you were like 17.
And only one of them was negative toned.
What?
Yeah. And how many times did Islamic Jihad appear in headlines or sub-headlines?
I'm afraid to guess. 8.
Twice. They were both negative, if it makes you feel any better, but
100%
it's only twice.
negative.
How many times did Hezbollah appear in a headline or sub-headline?
0.
Twice. Once was negative. So we have 4 negative.
What's positive about it?
No, it's like neutral. It's not
okay.
anything that you can say is, makes them look bad or good. Basically, they were not covered. Okay,
that's what it shows. In a best moments of 2022 list.
So I was able to show that they did not cover terror organizations, which Israel deals with every single day, during 2022, which was a peak terror year.
Wait, okay, I want to get this straight though. Again,
it was
a peak terror year of terror attacks in Israel.
Yes,
there were
2,600
in Israel.
In Israel,
attacks?
and Judea and Samaria
in 2022.
Yes.
You count like stones and stuff like that.
No.
Attempted.
No stones. Stones are not in it.
Attempted.
No, not attempts, but terror.
Not necessarily with casualty.
Yeah, of course.
But
and 204 of them were also not all of them with casualties, but really? 204 of them
2,000?
Over 2,000, 2,600. You can look in
means every day you had...
You had multiple.
You had multiple, yeah.
So how did we hear about it?
You heard only about the significant ones, which were 204.
Wow.
Which, that makes sense, right? Because it was about once or twice a week during last year. Some weeks a little more, some weeks a little less, but that was the average.
Okay.
So yes, it was a peak terror year. You can actually Google it in the ISA website. It's all there. All the numbers are there.
It makes me feel like we live even more in a bubble in Tel Aviv.
No, I think everyone lives in a bubble. Like we're all in a bubble. Because how can you fathom those? Like how can you live your life where every hour there's a... But there's a good...
We just had one today.
Yeah. True. But there's a good segue you told me to the reforms from your study, right?
Oh, right. Okay. So I told you about how...
it's not as good when you call it a segue, though, I have to say.
No, but what happened was when I finished writing it, that was like at the end of the year. Okay, it was like December, early January. It took me, a couple of more weeks into January, and then I finished the study, which went to peer review and all kinds of stuff in the academic world, which I really know nothing about. I must admit, this is all done by Professor Gilboa, who is really an expert, and I just kind of gave it to him and said, okay, we'll be in touch, something like that, because it takes a long time. It's not like, it's not the world that I'm used to, which is journalism and everything is just very instant. So I started to take care about media. I wanted Israelis to know about this study. I wanted American Jews to know about this study, Americans who are not Jews to know about this study. So, I started to sell it to news organizations, and everybody was like, nobody was indifferent, okay? Everybody who saw it was like, could not believe the numbers. The numbers are very, they scream from this study. But so I did get some coverage, but at some point, the judicial reform became such a huge thing that there was no room for anything. And everybody kept telling me, listen, it's great, but not now. And this is, back at the end of January and beginning of February, when it was still not as
diapers.
It just got worse and worse. And we're not talking about anything else. We're literally not talking about anything else. Yeah. So this really, I think this is one of my problems with what's happening now in Israel, because we can't fight things that normally we would be able to fight together because we're fighting over the reform. And this is something that we all agreed on, even though we don't agree on the reform. But we can't do anything with it at the moment because there's too much noise. And whenever somebody talks about Israel, it's about the reform and about the extremism of the government.
But is that, in your eyes, should we all calm down because it's not the end of the world and we need to focus on other things? Or is it we have to get this thing out of the way and deal with it as soon as possible because it's so critical? And do you see the allocation of resources or attention or energy to this thing as legitimate or illegitimate, I guess is what I'm asking.
You gave me two options.
Okay.
And I think there's another option.
Okay.
And the other option is to understand that we went way too far with our inner division. And we need to stop and look at this and understand that this is what we have to deal with at the moment. This is the most urgent thing that Israel should deal with. I've been seeing it for a long time, but I think it really came to a point where we're literally breaking. We can't run the country. So it's not, should we calm down? Because nobody's, hundreds of thousands of people who go out on the street are not going to calm down, obviously. If,
they could.
How could they?
By calming down.
But
it could be that there is a scenario that the reforms pass and then they calm down.
I know that that's the scenario that the government is thinking about and kind of saying.
I don't know. I don't think they are.
I think they are. This is what I've been hearing.
But
I think they started to get a little scared.
Starting to talk about
with the pilots.
They're I'm saying they're backing off two of the four major clauses.
For now. I think we have come to, I'm a little older than you guys, just a little, right?
If you say so.
I've never experienced anything like this in Israel, and to me, it's really frightening and scary as hell. I gotta tell you. We
were just talking about this. Yeah. I don't buy it. Not that you feel that way.
Yeah.
I believe
you don't feel that way.
I don't buy that. Yeah. I think that it's a narrative that's being pushed, and I don't take it at face value. This idea that we're on the brink of civil war. It's like, come on. There's a bunch of protesters. There were a bunch of protesters on the street in 2011. There were I think tenfold maybe what we have today. And I wasn't as involved politically, and I wasn't reading the news as much back then, so I don't remember if anybody said anything about this is a brink of anything. But I feel like maybe the tones are a little higher. But I'm not. What I'm saying is I'm not convinced either way. But I'm not going to take it at face value that we're in some dire straits right now.
Okay, I think what I'm thinking that maybe different people take what's happening on different levels and maybe different magnitudes. It's for me, this is very, very real. And I think the people who are out on the street are truly frightened. Okay. It's not like a narrative, and these people are not stupid, and they're not, not people that you can just,
no, No, generalize? Absolutely.
No, I mean, I go to the protests, okay? Yeah. So I know who I see there. I see, like, people who would never go out and protest, who usually you would see, in the airport going on, maybe private planes and stuff like, people who are disconnected in a different way from the, the scenery, like people who stand at the top of the biggest companies in Israel.
Yesterday, an anecdote. Yesterday, I was walking on Rothschild, and it was the end of the demonstration, Saturday night, and I passed by there's this huge tower where Facebook headquarters is also the biggest tower in Rothschild, and I saw protesters who probably live there coming back and going to probably like their
offices.
It's also, I think,
an apartment building.
Yeah, I think so. There's also maybe apartments there, but I saw like very prominent people coming back from.
Yeah. So it's a very unusual situation, and people really do believe. Okay, and I'm one of them. People really do believe that this reform is not a real reform, but it's a way to turn Israel into a different way of governing, which is not exactly a democracy. Okay, I'm not going to call it an autocracy or a dictatorship. These are big words, and they have many meanings. When we think dictatorship, we're like, oh, come on, really? Israelis are going to be under a dictatorship? The thing, I think, that the way that you kind of gave me two options before, I think we have come to this kind of, first of all, binary thinking, okay? That it's either this or this. It's either black or white. I'm either for it or against it. Everything that's a little more complex has kind of been pushed out of our discourse, and which I think is terrible, because you can't really have a true discourse when you talk like this, okay? It's like if you're giving me two options.
Coffee machine, turning off.
Okay, so
protesting.
Right. I'm going to take it with me next Saturday. Okay, so that's one thing. Another thing that I see is taking a big part in this is social media. And I have to tell you something. I want to be frank for a minute, okay? I mean, when I came here almost a year ago, you contacted me and you said you saw something and I didn't really know your persona on Twitter before I came. And I came here, we had a great talk, and I thought you guys were really great. And that
Two nice Jewish boys.
I mean, not even, I would say more than two nice Jewish boys. You're intelligent, you're promising, you do things.
Stop. Keep going.
No, seriously.
She was talking about you, man.
The fact that you do this every week shows something. I don't know. It shows that you have values, you care, you want to do something significant. For me, it means something.
Thank
you're welcome.
Here comes the...
Yeah, okay.
No, that's why I said thank you before the butt. No. Thank you. Really.
Okay. But I got to tell you, when I see... I don't follow you. I think maybe I should. You're not that active.
Prominent on Twitter, but when I am, I'm a troll. I'll put that out there. I'm pretty... Because, Twitter's like a dumpster fire. So if you're going to jump in a dumpster fire... you might as well be...
Yeah. We look at it differently. See?
Okay, yeah.
For me, yeah. And when we started talking about it, I was thinking, okay, you perceive Twitter in a different way than me. It might be the age gap. It might be something else. I don't know. For me, I'm on social media in order to talk to people for real, not to argufy or be a troll or say, I don't know.
No, I'll give you this. Fight. I don't really try. What I do is when I see people who are offensive or have crossed the line of healthy discourse in my eyes, then I troll.
Okay.
But meaning I don't have a problem with troll, but I usually am trying to have a meaningful conversation. I usually don't say offensive things. And when it's in other forums other than Twitter, I'm really not active on Twitter.
But the punchline was about me, man.
Yeah. I was talking about sorry. So I'll just finish what I was going to say.
Sorry.
And when I started seeing your tweets, I was like, what happened to Noel? I was like, I know this guy. What's going on? I couldn't, I really couldn't
bridge the gap.
I obviously have a problem containing things emotionally because I couldn't handle the gap. And I was thinking to myself, if we hadn't met first and we only met on Twitter, I would have never come here. Because I would think, no, there's no way I can talk to this guy. Now I know why we can't
get other guests.
No, but seriously, I don't know.
It's all your fault.
I don't know if it's and then I started answering you every once in a while because I know you. If I didn't know you, I would never answer you. You're somebody who I would never.
Why?
Because it's just
would you block him?
No, I don't block anybody.
Good.
I don't block anybody. I'm not a blocker.
No, but why would you answer?
Because it's just too way off. It's too way off. I would perceive you as somebody I can't really talk to.
But can you give?
I really try to talk to people on Twitter.
Objective third
1 minute.
Party and ask questions.
1 minute.
Okay.
But look, for me, I can't relate to what you're saying. I can't understand it because I have very strict red lines which I never cross. And when I look at Twitter, like 80% of Twitter is way worse than me. Yes, I may have like I'm very opinionated. I have my agenda, but unless someone really goes on me hard personally and just cursing and calling names.
No, I didn't see that on your Twitter account. No, you're right.
But
no,
you're
not.
That's most of the discourse, So I never curse. I never go for ad hominem.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what? I don't have examples. I didn't bring examples with me.
But there's an example.
I'm just telling you a feeling that I had. Okay, I'm trying to relay a feeling. Maybe.
But your problems were not like with the way of discourse, but with the ideas I was expressing.
I think you were expressing very extreme ideas. Okay, and when somebody expresses such extreme ideas or stands, it doesn't feel that you can talk to them in any way. And the reason that I do answer you every once in a while is because I know you, and so I can kind of separate these things.
Yeah.
So I'm saying this again. It might be me and the fact that I'm older than you guys and I belong to a different generation. And it might not. I don't know.
And also, I think one last point. I think it's like sometimes on WhatsApp, like the worst thing you can do is I was always telling Eitan from my experience is to get into a WhatsApp fight with your partner. Okay.
Oh yeah. Because you can't really read it right.
You can't read
I think
it
it's
well.
The opposite. No, really.
You can't.
When we fight, we always resolve things through writing.
But on WhatsApp?
Yeah.
Oh, we do emails.
It cleans. There's the generational gap. Yeah. It cleans the intonation.
I don't know.
When
I think it's I guess it's a matter. But my point is that Twitter, you have you have very strict limitations. You can't express. It's not a place to express deep ideas, right? It's a place to make very simplified arguments.
But it's kind of a place to fight. I think it became a place where we fight. It's not a place where we talk and maybe convince each other, maybe say something that you didn't think about, maybe you say something I didn't think about. It's not a place where we can really develop ideas in a positive way. That's what I think about Twitter. And by the way, I've been thinking about it for a long time because the reason that I was tweeting my New York Times findings every day was because I really didn't want to be on Twitter anymore. It just became too dirty for me. And I said, I might as well dedicate my account to this. And now that I finished it, I hardly tweet, but sometimes I answer people. So I get into conversations.
I want to pull us back because we didn't come here to talk about Twitter.
Right.
Let's go back to the reforms for a second.
Okay.
What are the main issues you see? Why do you think this is going to lead to a less democratic state?
I'm just going to say that I think that Twitter does have something to do with it because it kind of brings us into this kind of mindset where we can't really develop the complex ideas together, but we bring the fights from Twitter. Okay, maybe
I agree. That's why we have this podcast.
Right. Yeah, so first of all, it's great that you have it. So let's talk about the reform. Why do I think it's bad? It's crazy because I was never someone who would stand for the judiciary. Never. And I wrote so many articles against their rulings, and so many things that they did upset me. And I thought that they were, they took too much power. I did think so. So I'm one of those who thinks that there should be a reform. But I also see the more complex situation. If we're talking facts, I look at the reform. There is a set of new laws that they want to pass in zero time. Why do we have to do it so fast? Why do we have to do it like during the first 3 months of the new government? That's the first thing I don't like. Okay, the second thing is passing all these laws together. One of them, the first one, is for politicians, not just politicians, but the coalition, to choose the judges, which means that the judges are going to feel, obligated to be liked by the politicians in power, which I don't like. Not that I think the committee at the moment is the best way to do it, but I think it's more or less balanced. And if you want to change it, you can balance it in a different way. Maybe the lawyer association shouldn't be there. I agree to that. But once the coalition actually dominates this committee, it's problematic. That's the first. And this is only one thing, okay, that I might be able to live with if it was alone. But to this, we're adding the
override clause.
The override clause. The override clause by a regular majority of 61, which means that
not a regular majority.
It's a regular majority.
It's a proportional majority.
Yeah, but it's
a regular majority could be
10 to 5.
32 to 17, like the Chok Yesod Kvod Adam V'Chiruto passed.
Right.
That's a regular majority.
I accept this tikkun. But what it means is
60. I have to add to that 61 is not an easy majority to scrape together, which is the reason that which is the reason we were in election after election after election.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
But we were in election after election after election because we are divided.
No, but I'm saying it's case in point that it's not easy to get 61 people on the same page.
Okay, but given that you do, that's a different thing, okay? Because in a normal situation, you're supposed to be able to form a coalition of more than 61, okay? The thing
Jews,
here...
we were never normal.
Yeah, but the thing is that you have, at the moment, you have a 64, a coalition of 64, which is, they vote together on everything. They voted together on things that were...
Until they don't,
Who knows? But okay, let's say the 61.
Mishmat koalitionit.
Yeah, no.
Mishmat koalitionit. This is how they're voting. De facto, this is how they're voting.
Only goes so far.
But the last time that we had a full-term Knesset was ages ago.
Okay, wait a minute. This is just the
Meaning
second one.
Every Knesset falls apart because of, what is it called? The Atzbat Yemun.
This particular government, I don't see falling apart by its back.
No, but I'm just saying in the last 20 years, every government has reached a point where the 61 or the 65 or whatever, the 60 can't get together and agree on something, whether it's Chok Gius or whatever it is. They can't get together, and then, boom, they fall apart.
Okay, that's the second one. Okay. And then we have the persecutors.
Prosecutor, state prosecutor, and attorney general.
That's okay. I'm fine with that. Okay. I'm fine with splitting this role.
Yeah. Put this aside.
This is totally fine. You mean to split the?
No, not only Not only that.
I'm only fine with that.
Okay.
Now, that's not even on the table right now.
It's not even on the table. Exactly. No. It's not even on the table. You're right.
It's on the table.
It's not on the table. It's the advisors. It's the legal advisors, which are under the
Attorney General.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they want so they want to stop that as well. And not that I think that these advisors are amazing. Okay, I just understand. Okay, I'm just going to say everything
just
first. Okay?
So it's clear to our listeners, the Attorney's General advice is today seen as obligatory, and they want to make it just advisory, meaning
they want to take their own advisors.
Yeah, the minister can decide whether to take it or not.
No, that's something else. No, that's not what they want. What they want is to appoint. They want to appoint their own legal advisors, which will not be under the Attorney General, but under the politicians, which sounds okay.
Their advice will not be obligatory.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So they want to do both these things, which is going a very extreme way in order to solve problems that I know occur with the legal advice. But what I'm trying to say is that once that you have all these things, what you're doing, what you're doing is actually saying, okay, I don't want the judiciary to decide anything about the executive government. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to be able to say anything. I don't want them to be able to say, no, you're doing something wrong here, or you're doing something wrong there. The government will be able to do whatever it wants, get its own legal advisors, and not be, and whatever Bagatz, Supreme Court will rule against, they will be able to override. So that means that there's no checks and balances.
But it's half accurate what you're saying. There's a couple of, I think, which are being just kind of overlooked. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if all 15 judges vote that a legislation needs to be knocked down, it has a stronger, you can't override it until the next term. Meaning you can't immediately.
Yeah, but that's very rare.
Okay, it's
very rare.
I don't think it would be so rare with the current makeup of the court. But anyway,
no, that's not true. The current makeup of the court is not as extreme as
no. But I'm just saying that if the Knesset passed that all redheads needed to be murdered, I would like to believe that any makeup of the court would knock it down. So I'm saying that's one thing that's very important, is that 15 judges all together in a unanimous vote. The Supreme Court has 15 judges in Israel. All 15 unanimous vote can knock down a legislation, and it will hold until the next Knesset. Mm-hmm. And if the next Knesset wants to pass it again, then yes, they can pass it again. But again, the Supreme Court and all 15 of the judges can knock it down. But that's only if it's all 15.
And just think that the government is going to appoint 4 of them in the next year.
I'm just saying that there is... So at
least one of them is going to probably
you're saying checks and balances.
No, but this is what I'm saying. This is too extreme. You're not going to get 15 out of 15 for regular issues and not just killing all the redheads, which is a crazy example.
Exactly. So regular issues won't be knocked down. Meaning, the original claim was that the government can do whatever it wants. The implication there is that the government can go to extremes, and there's nothing to check it. So I'm saying, in extremes, there are 15 judges. Now, you're saying one of the judges will probably vote against because they'll be appointed by the government. I don't know if that's true or not. But the second thing is that an override requires 61. And it's not always easy. So if 13 judges knock down a legislation, which can then be overridden by the Knesset, I actually would like to think that one of the 61... or maybe even 2, or maybe even 3, or maybe even 4 are going to look at that and say, that's a kind of an indication that I don't know if I want to go to elections again next year or next month when I voted, to uphold this extreme law.
Are you sure that 15 judges are going to vote against it?
No, I'm saying even in 13. I'm saying even if not enough to block an override.
Or not. I don't know.
Agreed.
I don't know.
No,
maybe
agreed.
And maybe not.
Agreed.
Okay. What I'm saying is that
it gives more power to the Knesset. Absolutely.
Not to the Knesset, to the government. The Knesset has no power.
Of course,
I don't get this argument.
Okay, I will explain why. Okay. I don't know how you say mishmat koalitionit in English.
Coalition discipline.
Discipline. Coalition discipline. Let's call it coalition discipline, which means that before the government is formed, there are agreements, and on these agreements, the parties decide that we're going to do A, B, and C, and everybody's going to vote on it under discipline, whether they're for it or against it. Right, so
people have broken this discipline.
Yeah, but what I'm looking at the moment is a government. Okay, what do I see? I see 32 people from Likud, which is centrist right party, and 32, the same number of people which are radical. The Haredim, okay. They have, I think they're completely out of control. I think they have, I don't know, they have developed into believing that they can just ask for whatever they want, and they keep raising the bar and raising the bar and raising the bar, and they've broken all the glass ceilings, okay, for budgets and for all kinds of rights that they want. They don't want the Supreme Court to have any power over the government because they want to pass laws that are not equal, that are against equality. Okay, so I am very much against this, and I know that they can שכחתי את המילה לאיים.
They can threaten.
They can threaten the government for leaving, and the government really wants to stay together, and they can get anything they want. So I don't know what kinds of laws they're going to pass. They're going to pass whatever they want, and this is now. I think a long time, when what we're seeing right now is the beginning of 2023. Things get more extreme as time passes. We all became more extreme as time passed. That's why we're so divided. So in 5 years, we might be in places that we can't even imagine now, because other things have happened, and the bar has been raised again, and again, and we're used to a different reality. And I don't know what they're going to pass. I can't even think about it. I don't want them to have this power just because somebody really wants to be prime minister.
But as it is today, I want to understand, I get your opposition, but as it is today, do you not see any problem with the fact that the Supreme Court basically holds supreme power?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So how do you suggest limiting it?
Okay. First of all, what I'm saying is...
And the attorney generals, by the way. Because I want you to speak to that point as well, because if I am obligated as a minister to abide by my legal counsel, then how do...
He's my boss.
He's my boss. No? I'm obligated. He can decide whatever he wants.
Well, he's the one who appointed you, and he's your boss, but you're supposed to be...
The minister is the attorney general's
You're supposed to be serving the state and not the minister, okay? That's the concept. The concept is that you're serving the state, and you present the law, and you don't present the minister who is a politician who has been...
He's not a politician. He's an elected official.
But he's also a politician.
No, he's a politician if you define how he behaves. He is an elected official, meaning he's representative of the people.
Let's say that he's both.
No.
Why not?
You're a politician.
I'm a politician?
Yeah.
Why am I a politician?
You network with people. You do a give and take with people.
But I'm not in politics.
In order to get what you want.
But
I'm a politician.
No, but when I'm saying a politician, I'm saying somebody who his profession is a politician.
What? No, but that's not a profession.
It is a profession.
That's not a profession. Nobody gets paid to be a politician. He's an elected official.
Yeah, but
that's the main core issue here, I think, in the conversation in Israel. You will notice all the hate goes to and all the arguments. I can't imagine a politician deciding on this and that. And that's a core problem in the way I feel the left understands how democracy works, because those people are, and that's why the American approach is so relevant here, I think.
I agree.
They're not politicians. They are the beacons of democracy. Seriously. You may hate them.
They're both.
No, they represent us. David Bitan, I hate the fact that he's a representative of a part of Israeli society, but he is.
No, I think that's not the point, though. I think that what they do, they use politics as a profession in order to become elected officials. And they're always thinking about the next election. They're always doing that because that's the way the system works.
It is the way the system works. But
that's how democracy works.
That's how our democracy works.
No, that's the idea of democracy. No, is that they think about the next election.
In the United States, it's
I
only
hold
true.
Them to account.
It's only true twice. Okay,
for the president.
Only have right. No, but for the whole government.
Yeah, but
if you're a minister, it's a totally different system. No, I'm not talking about congressmen. I'm talking about the government, the executive part of the government, who the הרשות המבצעת.
Yeah, but in the I don't know if in the UK they have limits of terms, but
Germany.
No, but they have different. The whole thing is when we're talking about democracy. For me, democracy means first of all, the majority. Okay, majority counts, but also basic rights, which are either formed into a constitution, which we don't have. Our basic rights are not in a constitution. We don't have one, which is a huge problem. If we had a constitution, this whole thing would not be so bad as it is now.
The UK doesn't have a constitution either.
Yes, but it has different checks and balances.
I agree that it has like a rich history of.
It's not just the history. It's also the you're right about the history, but it's also I'm not
like
familiar
they have the Magna
enough.
Carta.
Right.
But they don't
I actually checked about England, and the thing there is, in the end, what it all goes to, yes, the minister appoints the judges. In the end, it's very similar, but the argument there for the anti-reform is that there, at the very, very, very end, you can appeal to the UN Committee of Human Rights, something. They're obligated legally, the UK, still after Brexit, to the European...
to the Union? Not to the
they
European
are signed to this, it's called, I think, the Rome Accords or something like that, but it's like the Human Rights Council of the European Human Rights Council.
Yeah.
And if your rights are violated, even after Brexit, you can appeal to them, even if the Supreme Court...
But the UN can knock down British legislation?
They can sanction... They can enforce... Basically, the UK is obligated to subdue to the decision of this committee.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Well, the thing is that what I'm saying is that every country has all kinds of checks and balances, okay? The European countries, most of them are under the EU, so they're obligated to the EU. In the US, it's completely different. I mean, you have a Congress and you have the Senate, and you have a government which is, can only serve 2 terms, and you have a lot of checks and balances in the system. We don't have checks and balances in our system. And when I was saying before,
or after the reform?
But today, the only real checks and balances that we have are the judiciary. Okay? So what I'm saying is, okay, maybe these checks and balances are not perfect. Not maybe. They're not perfect. There's a lot of problem with these checks and balances. But what the government wants now is to remove them.
I think it doesn't want checks and balances. You have the parliamentary system, which requires factional constituency to make up a coalition, which is extremely hard, and we saw that.
They go by their parties. You see how they're voting.
Yeah, but they don't. But that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying is that eventually the coalition falls apart. It's not nearly as stable as the U.S. system in the sense that nobody holds up for years.
I don't see this coalition falling apart so fast.
Maybe, but I'm saying if we judge by history, it has. And then you have the judges, and you have the attorneys general, and like I don't see any. But we
don't have the judges and the attorney general anymore because you want to take that away.
No, but I'm saying that's what I'm saying, that I want to take it away because I don't see any checks and balances on them. So I want to go back to that question, which I didn't.
But they're not the executive branch.
No, but today they have
ultimate power.
No, they don't have ultimate power. I don't think that's true to say. I don't think it's true to say that. The branch that has the power is the executive branch. It's the government. Okay. Now, it's definitely it's blocked by the judiciary many times, more times than it should. Okay, we'll agree on that. But the government is not balanced by the Knesset because it dominates the Knesset with its coalition, and the coalition discipline, what we talked about before, and the interests of the party to stay in the coalition, especially the extremist ones who are not sure that they're going to reach this place again. Okay, so they're going to vote on anything, and the religious have their own ideas of what they want to vote on, and the Likud want to stay in power because everybody wants their jobs, so they're going to vote with everybody, and that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing...
The Likud always... Let's take the Likud, for example, because the Likud have 32 mandates, 32 seats.
Right.
And at least, I don't know exactly, but let's say at least 10 or 15 of the Likud Knesset members do not hold role in the government.
Right, okay. But they're not the major. The major ones have gotten roles and have given their fingers to...
Yes, but let's say in every coalition, at least half of the big parties, members of Knesset, will not be in the government, okay? So it's not like they're just members of Knesset.
Right.
And what I think our listeners have to understand is that this, how did we call it? The veto
discipline.
The discipline, it's a custom. It doesn't abide you in any way. A member of Knesset in Israel is completely in the end of the day independent.
Theoretically.
No.
They're not independent. Nobody is saying anything. Look, I mean, when I see them, what is the moment of truth? I think we've reached the moment of truth a long time ago.
Apparently we haven't. But first of all, I think we will gonna see that because none of these laws passed yet, and we will gonna see. Let's take this example. What's going on right now with the reform, right? You need 61 votes. So if 4 members of the Likud get together and make an alliance, they can force the government to make any change
that they
want,
and they don't do it. Theoretically, you are
David
right.
Bitan already spoke about it,
and Yuli Edelstein. But never mind. But in theory, okay,
it's very rare. I don't know. They might do it, but
it's possible.
It's very rare in the Likud. The Likud is dominated by Netanyahu. He tells everybody what to say. Notice how whenever something happens, all of a sudden, everybody tweets the same thing.
Can we go through...
Everybody tweets the same thing.
Elkin left the Likud recently, right? Saar left the Likud a while ago, but Elkin left the Likud pretty recently.
They left it together, I think.
No, Elkin left the Likud no. Saar left the Likud a decade ago. Elkin left the Likud in the past 4 years.
Ago.
No, Saar left the Likud a decade ago.
No,
man.
Saar
was in the Likud in 2019 in the first elections. Saar was
Yes. Look it up later.
Yes,
he came back to the Likud.
GPT.
He left politics, then he came back.
Then when he came back, he came back to the Likud.
Yes, and he was number 4.
He ran against Bibi.
He was number 4.
That's right.
He was number 4.
So
he didn't get a position.
Even better.
Bibi
Saar
didn't like
left
him.
the Likud. Elkin left the Likud. And I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones that I'm not. But those are the two very...
They left.
Sharen Haskel left the Likud.
But they didn't leave during the term. They left when there were elections, okay? They didn't leave and vote against the Likud. None of them. None of them voted against the Likud.
Fair point.
On the unity government of Gantz and Netanyahu, the government fell because members of Knesset of Gantz voted against the government without without their boss being. So we have presidents, is what I'm saying.
We have this happening a lot in the other parties, not the one that are that have formed the coalition now. Okay, so
I think it's a point in their favor.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay. It's fair enough.
They're a well-organized, well-disciplined group of people.
Yeah, but that's what scares us.
But everyone have a red light.
That's what scares us. They're going to do anything they want. They're all going to vote together. Nobody will be able to stand in their way. If my rights are abused, I can't even go to the court anymore.
Can you give a practice?
You can't go to the court.
No, but they're not. But they're going to override it.
Yeah, they'll override it, which will be difficult. And the court can vote it down with 15 votes.
It's not going to be difficult at all. They're all voting together. We just said so.
No, the 32 vote together. But what about the other 32?
Why wouldn't they vote with them?
I think you're making it out to be like
as long as they get it out
to be much simpler than it
will be in practice.
Than what it will be in practice.
What's a concrete example of a scenario which actually scares you? Let's say all the reforms.
First of all, I'm saying that the scenarios during the first year, this year, 2023, are not that scary to me. The scenarios are things that I cannot imagine now.
For example?
Because I don't know. I'm saying that I can't imagine them because things change.
They'll murder all the firstborn children?
No, of course not.
Like what?
No.
So
I'm not going there.
What's the worst thing you can imagine?
I'm going to a place where they're taking over Judea and Samaria. Amen. And making us into an apartheid state for real.
But
that's a great example.
It's a great
example because in a democracy, let's say
it's a purely political thing. No,
if they're going to make us an apartheid state for real,
and if they deport all the Arabs to Jordan,
yeah.
Really,
you know what's going to happen then? A religious war.
Okay,
we can't just do that.
For the sake, but let's say
we can't just do that.
But let's say
you're forgetting where we're situated. We're not.
Let's say for the sake of the argument,
there was a religious war, the 6 Day War.
No, and the 48 war.
Okay,
and the 48 war.
You're right, but we haven't had one in a while. We don't want another one now that Iran has, is going to have a nuclear.
I don't like 2,600 terror attacks a year either.
I agree.
It's not much better.
I agree.
I'm not sure what's worse.
Look, believe me.
Maybe we just have like one big, Pesach cleaning and get rid of it all.
I agree that we are living in an impossible situation, but I don't see an end game. I think what I see has been going on in the past decade is that Israel is trying to make coalitions with other Arab countries, making it worth their while to be our friends. And in order to reach a solution with the Palestinians through the other Arab countries, because obviously we can't do anything with their current leadership.
Let's get back to the example. Because I think, let's say, in 20 years, this future, let's say that Smotrich has 50 mandates in the Knesset, okay, and the Haredi have 20, okay? And let's say...
People like me will not be able to live here.
Okay.
That's the truth. Okay. We won't be able to live here.
I get it. I'm not sure I could, but let's say that's the scenario.
I'm not sure either.
Okay, but if that's the scenario and they decide they want to go on war with the Palestinians, the second independence war, okay, and do another 48, because we did it once. It's not unprecedented, right?
Yeah,
let's say.
It was a long time ago.
Okay, but let's say that's what the majority wants.
That's what they want.
That's what the majority wants. So what you're saying is we should have a court which will impose them not to do it. And I don't see how it, because if they want to do it, then in 20 years they'll disperse the court. And
what you're advocating for is like a Syrian situation where an Alawite minority rules over right?
No. What I'm saying is that we have to be a lawful state if we want to be, if we want to be considered a Western state among the world, if we want to keep our relationship with the U.S., if we want to keep our relationship with Europe, we have to be a lawful state. If we're going to start doing things that are unlawful and truly become an apartheid state, that, even if there would be a majority
That's what minority dictators say. Especially if Arab countries,
Israel
they say,
would cease
we want to be
exist.
a Western country.
I think Israel would cease to exist.
No, but
okay?
I get.
If we're not going to listen to all the people who are talking these days and know what they're talking about because, they served in very high posts and secret posts in the military. And they're saying, if we don't have the United States on our side.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
We have not. You don't buy it?
They weren't on our side in the 6 Day War and we won. But what I'm saying is we won. We didn't. We had Czech support, and that's it.
But you can't compare that. You cannot compare that. It was a completely...
I can. I can.
I just did.
I did. But I get it. I get what you're saying.
You can't compare it. It was a different world. It was a different world. We were in a different place.
But look, we can't. But I think it's a bad argument. The America is because we can't make like the most basic decisions of how we run, who runs our life, and how do we run our lives in our country based on what he will think and what she will think. I think the arguments should be like more practice, because also, I can take this argument and spin it around. Like some would say that we bombed the AP building in Gaza. That was a crime against humanity. It's
we're walking
limitless.
A very thin line. Why did I do my study about the New York Times? Because Israel is walking a very, very fine line. Okay, needing the U.S. for the vetoes in the UN, needing the European Union. We need these countries, because if we're not going to be in alliance with them because of our shared values and the fact that they know that we are a lawful country, it's going to be very hard for Israel to exist.
America has been allied with dictatorships.
That's true. That's true, but they're not. But the like Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
So they broke up.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's not the same. Israel and the U.S., it's a different kind of relationship. Okay, we can ruin it, but I wouldn't advise us to do it.
It's a shared value.
Exactly.
It's a mix. It's a mix of values and interests.
Yeah.
I agree.
Israel's technological advancements.
I agree that it's a mix. They need us. We need them more. Okay? We should always remember that. And I think that when we're having these, these very heated arguments, we tend to forget all kinds of things. It's like, when you're here in your very cute apartment and everything is fine and we're doing the podcast, we're not thinking about the foundations of the building. Right? I mean, we're not like walking around saying, wow, the foundations of this building are amazing. How did you come up with these foundations? Because they're there. We don't see them, but we would not be able to be here, and the building would collapse on us if there was anything wrong with them.
But it's just not factual.
And we're playing around with our foundations.
We were founded without American support. We fought our most difficult wars without American support. We'll be fine without American support. But even if you think it's foundational, I think that Viktor Frankl's logotherapy comes very much in use. The idea that the more you want something, the less likely you are to attain it. He had a patient, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning.
Of course, I know. I love him.
He had a patient who.
I'm waiting to hear, because I don't remember this.
So he had a patient. His logotherapy is the more you want something, the harder it is to attain. And he had a patient who would perspire profusely, like sweat profusely.
Okay.
And he worked with him to not want to stop perspiring, meaning because his patient would always want to just stop sweating, like I'm sweating so much, and he would just sweat more and more. He said, stop caring, you don't care to sweat, it's great. So I'm saying, you know what, the idea that we need American support, no, American support, we do need it. The best way to attain American support is to be confident in ourselves and not give a shit about American support. So
what you're saying is, let's not listen to all the security experts. They know nothing.
I'm
don't
saying
understand what they're talking about.
Groveling for American support, where we're going to decide our internal politics based on what America will do, I think, calling into question our spine, and ultimately will lead to a place where America won't support us.
If I may ask you, Lilach, what do you say to those who say, okay, I listened to all those experts, and yet the majority wants otherwise? Now, what do you say to those who say, okay, we heard all your arguments, and let's say even we went to a referendum, tomorrow. Yeah. And you had a majority for a yes for the reform. After all those arguments and everything the media says.
Then there would be a reform. If we went to a referendum and more than 50% of the people in Israel would want the reform, there would be a reform.
So your main argument...
But we would cease to be a democracy.
Okay, but
it would happen, yes.
Maybe. You don't know for sure.
No, not maybe. Because democracy, listen, what I'm saying is, if we had a constitution and our rights were secured in the rules of the game were clear and nobody could change them, only a very special majority could change the rules of the game, like in other countries that have a constitution, then you could play around with their... Right. And therefore, we would be, you know what, cease to be a democracy, maybe that's very extreme, but we would be a lot less democratic than we are today.
But what it means is that even if in the end the reforms won't pass, you're only postponing the problem, right? Because eventually we'll get to the same problem, if not now, then in 5 years, not in 5 years, in 10 years.
I think I agree, and I think it's going to blow in our faces. And if you ask me, our biggest problem is communication. And that's why I came here, because the way we communicate today, I think, is very dangerous. I think it's taking us to very dangerous places. And I think, we don't give enough respect to people with knowledge and understanding, which is greater than ours in many fields. And, whoever tweets the best joke is the one that we're going to maybe vote for, maybe believe, even if it's completely fake news or something that's completely false. And I think this is our biggest problem today, which is not only in Israel. This is the way it's affecting us today. But I think the problem of communication and understanding the truth and respecting knowledge, it also takes us back to the Chat GPT. I think we're in a very, very dangerous place. This is the way that it's forming in Israel. These are the implications in Israel.
I think that's actually, it's funny because I disagree. I almost think the opposite. I think that the Israelis' respect for knowledge we want a plutocracy more than we want a democracy, and that's why we have attorneys general that have override over their ministers, because we have this belief in experts in the fact that, and that's why we believe in a centralized system, and we're very socialist, because we think that things can be managed and certain people can have
objective
can have
truth.
An objective truth, and can have a lot of knowledge centralized within one person. I think that actually true democracy, I don't know if you're going to agree with it, but I think true democracy is more of a conservative or a liberal idea, a capitalist idea. Sorry, a capitalist idea, because it within true democracy is the idea that the real knowledge is in the masses. Real knowledge is you put something out to a vote, and whatever the majority says is most likely true.
Every individual's opinion is as good as the expert.
That's true. That's true. I agree. But that's exactly why you need a strong judiciary, which will be independent, because, the majority can take you to places that are beyond the law.
No.
Yes.
The majority can take you...
totally do that.
No, the majority decides the law. The majority can take you to places that are immoral. I agree with you. The majority can take you to places that are immoral, but morality and the law are not the same thing. And I think it's a grave mistake to conflate the two.
You wanted some examples. Tomorrow they can decide that I can't take money out of Israel and put it in a bank.
Tomorrow they can decide that you have to wear a skirt.
I'm not talking about that.
No, I'm saying I don't even find that's so extreme. That's democracy. And if you don't want to, I agree, I wouldn't want to live in that country either.
That's not democracy.
Yeah, of course it's democracy.
No, it isn't. That's just it. Because, in Egypt, they had elections. The majority voted for the Muslim Brotherhood, and they did not have a democracy. Okay? The majority,
Why not?
Because the Muslim Brotherhood are not democratic. Democratic is human rights.
No, there was a coup.
There was a coup. There was
a military coup, and they canceled elections.
Yes.
So then they're not democratic.
No.
The only thing that measures your democracy is whether or not you have regular elections. Free and secure elections.
No, that's not true. Look it up. In Chat GPT.
You look it up.
Actually, I'm going to look it up.
Look it up.
I will. Yes, go ahead.
No, because the definition.
ChatGPT is biased. But on Wikipedia, if you go to
ChatGPT is biased.
No,
it is biased.
On Google.
Is it liberal?
Yeah.
I will agree with you that different people. I had this conversation with 1,000 people, and they're definitions differ of democracy. But on Google, I mean, if you look at it, it is a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. A state governed by democracy, control of an organization, basically rule of the people. The practice or principles of social equality. No.
No, but if you go to Wikipedia,
you do have rights, though.
But the rights come from...
Democracy is a form of government. This is Wikipedia. Democracy is a form of government in which... Wait. Democracy is a form of government, Wikipedia, in which the people have the authority to deliberate and decide legislation or to choose governing officials to do so.
Period. And then you have extras. All the rest is bonus.
No, it's not bonus. It's part of
democracy.
Like the
third definition on Google, which is the practice or principles of social equality. Like Sababa, that's... But what they mean by social equality, I think, is that everybody has an equal vote.
No, it means that there are certain rules of the game of democracy, okay? Israel was established without establishing the rules of the game. We started making laws before we had That's
a constitution.
Right, but the constitution
is not an inherent part of a democracy.
Of course, it could be.
Okay? No, agreed, but I'm saying
there are systems that... guard the rights of every human being in the country, whether they live here and they are citizens or not.
That's not...
that's democracy. No. Yes.
Okay, yes. So then we just are having a semantic debate.
It's not... Well,
Can we agree that if the reforms pass, that the people have more power? The majority has more power?
I'm not sure. Because it's not a referendum. No, and there are a lot of Likud people and Tzionut Datit that are out there on the streets, and they don't want the reform.
No, okay, but I'm saying if the...
So we don't know. We don't even know if it's the majority.
No, but they can not want the reform. But I'm still asking a very rational question. If we give more power to the body, which is the representative body of the people who vote for the Knesset, and we maintain...
You're giving it to the executive branch, not to the Knesset. The Knesset is weak.
How?
The Knesset is weak because it's dominated by the government, and the government has a coalition discipline, and it dominates the Knesset.
I think this is the
90%. Okay, I'll give you a statistic, okay? 90% of the rules... Yeah. Of the laws that were ever passed in Israel, you can look that up, were passed by the coalition and not the opposition, which means that the government rules the Knesset.
No, wait, but what? Of course.
They have the majority.
90% of the laws are passed by the coalition.
Yes. They're the majority.
But doesn't that make sense?
But that gives power to the government and not the Knesset.
No, the government gets its power from the Knesset.
Yeah, but that's semantic. If the Knesset was separated from the government, okay, and people were to be elected to a parliament without being part of the government with a coalition discipline and having to vote with the coalition and depending on the coalition for their job or maybe being minister or not or maybe, being favored by the prime minister or not, then it would be like that. But at the moment, the Knesset is weak. It doesn't really have power.
I think...
The government rules the Knesset, and now it wants to rule the judiciary.
I think the coalition rules the government. The government's subject to
and also
the whims.
The Knesset.
No, the government is subject to the whims and whatever desires of every member of Knesset. Tomorrow, like Naor said, 4 of them
can bring down the entire government, and we go to elections.
Yeah, that's emasculate the entire
or not. But
if their interests are different,
that's a check and balance. That's a check and balance.
It's not enough. It's not enough. It's
in
not
your
enough.
Opinion,
and you know what? It's not enough even more in these times when we have so much fake news, and we don't really, and we are so binary in our thinking and in our arguments, and I think the fact that all of this is happening in 2023, we can't overlook that either.
And you know what's by the way, I just want to add, why it's such a good system? It's amazing. The more I think about it, it's just ingenious. Really, the incentive structure for a member of Knesset to rebel is what?
Elections.
Yeah, but what in election? That he'll get more votes in the meaning he will be rewarded with a larger constituency. Meaning nobody's going to leave the coalition.
Do you see
if
somebody?
They believe?
Okay, I'll ask you something.
Yeah, Idit Silman.
Do you see? Yeah, but she did it the other way around.
She felt like she was losing constituency, and she thought, okay, you know what? Maybe, and I think it was one of the most abysmal governments or coalitions that existed in the last, 2 decades. It was awful. And I think a lot of the voters of Yamina felt that they were being betrayed. And she realized, I think, she had a moment of sobriety and was like, wait a second, you know what? Next elections, I'm probably going to be screwed.
You're just forgetting that she was also threatened. Okay, and she was very scared, and she wanted the constituency. I agree with that, but I think she was also threatened by people who have become unified in their thinking, in what they say. Nothing. I don't see any Knesset members in the Likud speaking differently from each other. I'm sorry, I don't see it de facto.
But I think
and so I don't see her doing that again because she would be scared.
In the disengagement.
But you're talking 18 years ago. So
what?
It's a completely different time.
It's not that long ago.
It is very long ago.
Just to finish the point, in the disengagement, the Likud, some like half of it or even most of it.
You're right. We're not there anymore. We're not there anymore. That's exactly.
Again, the history repeats itself. It's a wheel.
I don't know if we could be again, because I think that what we have here is really it's very complex. Okay, what I'm seeing a government which is very extreme. I'm seeing a prime minister which is, he can be extorted because he has very big and understandable personal interests. I see very frightening interests of the religious and also of the religious Zionism, and all of this together with the fake news, with the unified thinking, with all the media that obviously, if I'm taking something from here today, it's the fact that you guys view this whole thing that's happening on social media completely differently from me. I see it as a very, very frightening thing, which it doesn't enable people to talk. It just splits them apart. And
they are already split apart.
And no, because we've never been this split up. And I started, when we started
you're like before, like the Etzel and the Lehi and the Hagana and
Oslo.
Oslo. We've had our differences,
yes.
Definitely. Definitely had our differences, but I see a different thing happening today. And I think that saying what happened in history, because of the way the communication works today, it doesn't, זה לא תופס יותר. It's not relevant anymore. We're living in new times, and it's the technology and the communication, they're messing with our minds. And I'm not sure we're all aware of it. I'm not sure we're all perceiving it in the same way. We probably aren't. But I think that the people who are out on the street are very, I think people are also sick and tired of being pushed around and beat up on social media and otherwise, and being treated as anarchists and terrorists, while they know that they've given the best of their the best that they can and their best years to the country, and they're just not going to put up with it anymore. So it's all together, it's a very complex situation. It's not just the reform.
Since it's like two coalition voters against opposition voter, probably. Mm-hmm. In the end, I think most of coalition voters look at the protest and say, I went out, I voted. I won the elections. Our side won the elections.
I understand it.
And now through violence, extremism, my representative.
Violent extreme? Who's violent?
Violent extremism. No. They're blocking streets.
Some of them are blocking
They're beating
streets.
up people in their cars. I mean, I saw plenty of videos of people being violent. But I'm not saying that they're all violent. I'm saying the vast majority of them aren't. But I'm saying there are parts of it that are violent. The general idea of going out to the streets and yelling generally is, I think, a demonstration of power, which is fine. You're allowed to demonstrate. But I'm saying it's still a minority of the population, meaning, so in a
And it wants its rights. This minority wants its rights.
No, but on the extreme, it's violent, and in the essence of it is just a powerful demonstration of power. Through that, undemocratically, they are scaring my elected representatives into backing off of legislation, which I knowledgeably
sent them to do,
and soberly voted for them. And sent them to do in a democracy.
You would want to vote.
Final point.
Yeah. Okay. What I just want to know is that you would want to vote for something that would hurt your rights as an individual.
No.
This is what you're doing with the reform.
You're giving me two options. You're giving me. You're making a claim of like direct not correlation, even connection, causation.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I'm voting for something which potentially could harm my rights, but I don't believe I wouldn't want to live in a country that is where I am coercing the majority to live by my values.
So that's actually what's going to happen, because the religious are going to be a majority here.
No, I'm saying I don't want to live in a country where I am coercing the majority to live by my values. Like otherwise, I'll take 20 people, get some 20 strong guys, and let's go to, I don't know, Lebanon and force everybody to live according to my rules. Like, I'm not a pirate. So I recognize the power of the majority. I don't want to live in a country and force the majority to live according to my values, A. And B, I have a strong belief in the Jewish people and in the goodness of our values, and I don't believe that we're going to live in some totalitarian state that lacks individual freedoms, largely.
He's an optimist.
Maybe that's it. Okay.
But I want to hear what you think.
I think that it could totally happen.
Yeah.
Because I think we are being led at the moment by people who have who their values are not, in line with your values or with my values. That's how I see them. And I think they can do things that are very extreme and change the country's character for a very long time in a very bad way.
Do you think I'm sorry, I can't.
Final.
Do you think if they were the majority, or hypothetically asked before, it would be legitimate for them to?
Yes, but I think something different is going on here at the moment because, I'm looking.
I think it's a powerful minority.
I think there are, as I said in the beginning, there are 32 representatives which are religious and religious Zionists, and 32 which are not, but their interests at the moment are, I feel that the Likud used to be a party that I could even vote for, and I have voted for, in the past. Today, I see them going in a direction that I just don't understand. Most of them, okay? Not all of them, but too many of them.
Fair.
Let's say, okay? So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're capable of.
Fair. I have to say, first of all, kudos to you for coming on the show and for dealing with us two dumb Jewish boys.
Sorry.
No, you're not dumb at all. It was a very good conversation.
Our people comment, you cut the guests, you don't let them speak. Yeah. So
we're very.
No, you were great. You were very polite. Really.
But I think the kudos goes to you for taking. It's also not easy to be like 2 against 1 and like.
No, but you guys were totally fair. I gotta say.
We really appreciate it. Really.
Yeah. And it was a good conversation, and thanks for having me.
Thanks
Definitely
for coming.
Thank you.
Okay. See you on the next one, guys.
Bye.
Bye.